In the middle of a merciless, raging sea, the wooden ship swayed like a leaf in the wind. The furious waves of the Indian Ocean struck the planks with force, foretelling disaster, while screams rose above the sound of thunder. This young Moroccan was neither a warrior nor a professional sailor. He was a jurist who had set out for Hajj and never returned. He looked around and saw the dead surrounding him from every side, while pirates approached to plunder what remained of the wreckage. In that decisive moment, a reel of his life passed before his eyes. Distant Tangier, the faces of his parents whom he had left years ago, and the promise he had made to himself never to travel the same path twice. But fate had something far greater in store for him than drowning or captivity. That was merely the beginning of an epic tale that no one would believe. How could one man survive death repeatedly to become the eyes of the world on the world? This is not just a travel story, it is the tale of the greatest adventurer known to human history, the man who crossed distances that horses and ships could scarcely cover, to tell us details of vanished civilizations and extinct nations in a journey that lasted 3 decades of wonder and danger. But how was Ibn Battuta able to cover 12,000 kilometers without airplanes or accurate maps? And what is the secret behind the mysterious prophecy cast upon him by an ascetic in Egypt that changed the course of his life forever? And how did he manage to enter the courts of the kings of India and China, amass vast wealth, then lose it in a single moment? O fellow traveler, do not be content with watching from afar. Subscribe to the channel now and join our caravan so we can discover the secrets of history together. And tell me in the comments so we can get to know each other. From which corner of the earth are you following this journey right now, and what time does your clock show? It was in the year 1325 when a young man in the prime of his youth decided to leave everything behind in the city of Tangier. The decision was not easy for a 21-year-old. Parting felt like tearing the soul from the body, leaving behind elderly parents. Ibn Battuta set out alone, with no companion to ease his loneliness and no caravan to shelter in, driven by an overwhelming desire to perform the obligation of Hajj and visit the Prophet's grave. He kept repeating to himself that he would be gone for a few months, perhaps a year at most, then return to settle among his family and tribe. But destiny drew a completely different map for him. The journey began with hardship from the very first steps, facing deadly loneliness and an endless road stretching across North Africa. In the central Maghreb, what we know today as Algeria, he joined a merchant's caravan, but illness did not spare him long. A severe fever struck his slender body, yet he refused to stop or fall behind the caravan. He would tie himself with his turban to the saddle of the mount, fearing he would fall from exhaustion and be left as prey for wild beasts or easy pickings for the highway robbers scattered across those desolate deserts. He reached Tunis on Eid Day, and there he felt the deepest kind of estrangement a person can experience. Amid crowds of people, he saw them embracing and exchanging greetings, while no one turned to him or offered him a salam. Overcome by a burning longing for the warmth of home, he could not hold back. He wept bitterly for the stranger he had become, until one of the pilgrims took pity on him and sheltered him. That moment was a harsh lesson in patience. Psychological challenges were not the only obstacle. Nature itself stood in his way. He continued his journey through Libya, where he married and then divorced due to disagreements with his wife's family, showing the difficulty of stability in the life of a traveler. After months of hardship, he finally reached Alexandria, the gateway to the world and a meeting place for merchants and scholars of that era. Ibn Battuta was amazed by its buildings, walls, and especially the famous lighthouse of Alexandria, which had been partially destroyed but still stood strong. It was in this city that a meeting occurred that would change the course of his life and plant an idea in his mind he had never imagined. He met an ascetic named al-Murshidi who looked into the eyes of the young Moroccan as if reading the unknown future. With confidence, the ascetic said, "It seems you love travel and wandering, my son." Ibn Battuta affirmed without hesitation. The sheikh then said, "You will visit my brothers, Fariduddin in India, Rukanuddin in Sind, and Burhanuddin in China. When you meet them, convey my greetings to them." These words struck Ibn Battuta like lightning. He had no intention at that time of going to those distant lands, but this prophecy planted the seed of curiosity and ambition inside him and made him realize that his journey would not be limited to Mecca alone. He left Alexandria heading to Cairo, which he described as the mother of cities, amazed by its large population and the enchanting beauty of the Nile. In Cairo, he saw the pyramids and believed they were granaries built by the prophet Joseph, a common interpretation in that era. He wanted to continue to Mecca via Upper Egypt and the Red Sea, so he traveled south to the port of Adab, but found the port in a state of war and chaos, with ships disabled or destroyed. This forced him to make a difficult decision. He returned to Cairo and chose the long overland route through the Levant, a journey full of dangers and hardships. He reached Gaza, then Hebron, where he visited the Ibrahimi Mosque, and from there to Jerusalem to pray in Al-Aqsa Mosque and the Dome of the Rock. His description of Jerusalem was precise and full of spirituality. Then he moved to Damascus, which enchanted him with its beauty and the abundance of its charitable endowments. In Damascus, he found an incredibly supportive society, where endowments covered all people's needs, even treating animals and preparing brides. He spent Ramadan in Damascus and witnessed Taraweeh prayers in the Great Umayyad Mosque, which he considered one of the greatest mosques on earth. As the Hajj season approached, Ibn Battuta joined the Great Levantine Caravan, which included thousands of pilgrims and soldiers. The road to Medina was arduous, but the longing to visit the Prophet's grave made him forget all fatigue and pain. When he finally reached noble Mecca and circumvancillated the Kaaba, he felt he had fulfilled the first dream of his life and that the journey was over. But the truth was completely different. The end of Hajj was the real beginning of an adventure that would not stop for 30 years. Instead of returning to Morocco, Ibn Battuta decided to head towards Iraq and Persia to see the ruins left by the Mongols. He walked the streets of Baghdad, which had been the capital of the world just a few decades earlier, and saw how the city was trying to rise from its fall. There he met Abu Sa'id, the last Ilkhanid sultan, and accompanied his majestic royal procession that moved like a traveling city. His curiosity did not stop there. It drove him to explore Tabriz and Mosul, then return once again to Mecca for residency. He stayed in Mecca for about 3 years studying and worshiping, but the voice of that ascetic in Alexandria still rang in his ears. "You will visit my brothers in India, Sind, and China." This sentence kept him awake and called him to leave comfort and set out towards the unknown. Meanwhile, news of the Sultan of India reached the ears of merchants, a sultan who loved strangers and showered them with gold. This sultan was Muhammad bin Tughlaq, the ruler of Delhi, who would play a pivotal and dangerous role in the life of our traveler. Ibn Battuta packed his belongings again, but this time he chose an unusual path, heading south to Blessed Yemen. He described Sana'a and Aden with precision and was amazed by the water systems and architecture in those rugged mountainous lands. From Yemen, he sailed for the first time to the eastern African coast, visiting Mogadishu, Kilwa, and Zanzibar. There he saw immense wealth and flourishing trade in gold and ivory, and met the sultans of those isolated Islamic kingdoms. After that, he returned to Oman and the Gulfs, then decided to embark on a new adventure to Asia Minor, what we know today as Turkey. At that time, Anatolia was fragmented among small Turkmen princeling states after the fall of the Seljuk state. He was received there with great hospitality, as the Aki Brotherhood system hosted travelers and provided them with food and shelter for free. But Ibn Battuta did not know that his path north would lead him to the land of darkness and bitter cold. He decided to go to the Kipchak lands. This strange mixture of solid facts and popular legends gave the book its unique charm and eternal magic. After completing the book in 1355, Ibn Battuta felt his life's mission had ended. He quietly withdrew from the spotlight and the clamor of the capital and accepted a modest position as judge in a small town called Tamasna. This quiet rural town became the final abode of the man who had traversed the inhabited world east and west. He spent the rest of his life far from the raging waves of the seas, far from the ambushes of thieves and highway robbers. He sat in his judge's council, settling disputes over land and inheritance. He who had once sat with emperors of China and kings of India. Imagine with me the feeling of this old man as he looked at the simple faces of peasants while his mind wandered through memories of the palaces of Delhi and the markets of Shiraz. Perhaps he felt nostalgia for those days when death lurked at every turn, for the quiet life may be a prison for the adventurer. But he knew with certainty that he had accomplished what no human before him had achieved in the history of Islam and the world in that era. Ibn Battuta died in 1369 at the age of about 63 and was buried in his birthplace, Tangier. The traveler died, but his legend did not. It began a new journey through time and generations. For long centuries, his book remained forgotten or known only within narrow circles in Morocco and El-Andalus. But with the beginning of the modern age of exploration, Orientalists and researchers rediscovered this rare gem. The book was translated into French, English, and German, and the whole world realized they were in the presence of the Prince of Travelers. When we compare Ibn Battuta with the famous Italian traveler Marco Polo, we find the difference between them vast and great. Marco Polo traveled for trade and spent most of his time in China. He did not write his book himself, but dictated it while in prison. As for Ibn Battuta, he covered a distance estimated at 120,000 kilometers, equivalent to circling the Earth 3 times. He visited about 44 countries by today's standards, mingled with people from all classes, from kings to beggars, married and had children in several countries, and worked as a judge, ambassador, and jurist. He was not merely a distant observer. He was perhaps history's first true global citizen, a man who realized that the borders drawn by humans have no value in the face of human unity. Among the painful ironies is that many of the civilizations he described so precisely have completely vanished. The Mali Empire with its gold and sultans, the Delhi Sultanate with its palaces and elephants, nothing remains of them but ruins. Were it not for Ibn Battuta's writings, a huge part of human history in that dark period would have been lost from the memory of time. He is the only near reliable source for the history of the Maldives Islands and some kingdoms of Africa and Eastern Europe in the 14th century. This great man taught us an eternal lesson. Travel is not merely geographical movement, it is a journey of self-discovery. Travel shatters preconceived judgments, dissolves differences between people, and makes you realize that truth has many faces. As he said in his immortal phrase, "Travel enriches the mind, gains experience, and makes you a storyteller after your tongue has been tied by wonder." In an era without airplanes, Google Maps, or means of communication, one individual managed to become the eyes of the world on the world. He faced deadly epidemics like the plague, survived drowning multiple times, and escaped the swords of pirates and forest thieves. Do we today, with all our technology and comforts, possess even a fraction of the courage of this authentic Moroccan? Do we have enough curiosity to leave our comfort zones and set out to discover the other without fear or hesitation? The story of Ibn Battuta is not just a tale from the past, it is an open invitation to each one of us, an invitation to be ambassadors of our homelands and our religion through our morals and conduct, just as he was an ambassador for Islam in every land he trod. It is an invitation to document our experiences and pass them on to others, for every journey you take is a story worth telling. In conclusion, my dear viewer, I hope this epic story has inspired you and lit the spark of adventure in your heart. We have lived together moments of fear and hope and seen the world through the eyes of a man who knew no impossible. If Ibn Battuta spent 30 years of his life to write these pages for us, then the least we can do is spread this knowledge. Share this video with every lover of history and travel so that everyone knows we have ancestors who conquered the world with knowledge and inspiration. And do not deprive us of your opinion in the comments. Tell us honestly, if you had a time machine, would you dare to accompany Ibn Battuta on his journey, or would you prefer to watch adventures from behind the screen while safe in your home? Thank you from the bottom of my heart for your wonderful following and for accompanying us on this long and enjoyable series. Wait for us in upcoming episodes with figures who changed the course of history and stories yet untold in such detail. Glory be to you, O Allah, and praise be to you. I bear witness that there is no God but you. I seek your forgiveness and repent to you. May you remain in Allah's care and protection. Peace, mercy, and blessings of Allah be upon you.